how have your first few loans gone through? And that's a question for you and everyone else.
Yeah, I haven't had any loans go through, fully through the pipeline. I've got a few pre-calls, but the time frame that it took to get to that point is it's pretty fast. And even, as late as 8 o'clock, and sometimes, if I'm working late, I'll have an answer the first thing the next morning. So that's been great. I think I see a lot of loans coming through the pipeline and being on time. Like I said, once we get past the pre-call stage, I'll have a better idea of, how, fluid the process is. But so far, so good.
Excellent. Once again, as a reminder, the commitment is that if you take a pre-qual, pre-approval, or a full loan app, and you put it in the system by 8 p.m., you will get an approval by 8 a.m. Okay, so we do that across the board, across all channels for all loans. Right, and if you submit it earlier in the day, most of the time, let's say you submitted it by noon or whatever, 8, 10 a.m., in a couple of hours, usually you'll get an approval in a few hours. But the guarantee is always by 8 a.m. You'll get your approvals. Okay.
That's a big commitment. That's a big commitment. That's something that we can take to the field and really use. One of the things that the team isn't used to yet, Pavan, which I think people are going to grow used to, is the true approval commitment as well. When you're able to get everything up front, especially in a competitive market like this, being able to, instead of a pre-qual, letting your shopping borrowers take an actual approval certificate with their offer, I think is going to pay a lot of dividends. And that's something that the team hasn't even seen yet because we haven't progressed that far. But that's something, on the team meetings we're talking about utilizing that tool very, very heavily in the competitive purchase markets.
Yes, and when you take a pre-qual and you get that data in your system, and the loan coordinators that we assign to you, they will start chasing those borrowers immediately for the conditions. Okay, so the way you're supposed to do it is take the pre-qual, take it, when you meet, and take the application, get as much information as you can at that first interview, get it in the system, hit the button to submit for pre-approval, right? By 8 a.m. in the morning, the loan will be fully underwritten, right? And that's a final underwrite. Okay, so that's the difference between us and everyone else, right? You're going to have an actually underwritten loan by 8 a.m. next morning, okay, with real conditions. And most people that do most of the lenders that do a pre-approval process, they have a junior team that does a underwrite, and you can't really rely on those conditions. Okay, and then so you go through the junior team, you do your pre-approval, and then you submit it again, and it gets unwritten again, and you get new conditions.
That's true.
Yeah, we don't have that issue. We guarantee it. Okay, because when you submit it and that's underwritten and that's final, that is your approval, and the company stands behind those conditions and that approval. Okay, then your loan coordinator, right? Your loan coordinator will follow up with the borrower directly on those conditions. And they're trained to speak to borrowers and connect with them and encourage them to get the conditions. And if they have any problems with the borrower, they'll call you and say, hey, I'm not getting condition XYZ with this borrower. And once all the conditions are in and the underwriter has signed off on all the conditions, right, and as you guys know, maybe you don't know, but right now, 85% of our conditions are guaranteed to be signed off in 2 hours and never more than 4 hours. So by December, it'll be guaranteed 2 hours for all conditions.
Meaning if you've got an approval and you get let's say you get something in at 9 o'clock at night, obviously we don't need it at 11 p.m., but by the time that we wake up the next morning, that condition should be completely signed off on, and we're moving to CTC if that's the last condition.
Exactly, but actually the way our process works, you submit at 9, you will get the condition signed off by 11. It actually does work that way because we have shifts working pretty much around the clock. Think about this, what this will mean to your closing ratio. right? When I was a loan officer, I'd take, I'd sit at a real estate office, take a couple of pre-apps, right? Pre-quals. And then I'd have to remember to follow up with those borrowers and make sure they follow through. Otherwise, you waste your time taking pre-apps, and then have these borrowers go somewhere else, right? So what we do here is every time you take a pre-qual, a loan coordinator will be all over them and pushing them for a full approval, right? So once that borrower has gotten that full approval, right, and your loan coordinator is all over that borrower and driving them, okay, then most likely that borrower will stay with you and your realtor, and it's not going to go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm. They're approved.
Yes, because they're approved, and you and your team has worked so hard with them, they will likely stay with you. That's a level of service that I'm not aware of any other lender offering.
Me neither.